So I'm making my way through. Fritz here, Battletech Game of Armored Combat. What we're doing, we're up to the Wolverine. We are looking at the mechs in the core set. I've also brought in the mechs from the head-to-head starter set on there, just to make it really easy and combine. And we're looking at a starting point for all of these mechs, for all of these machines, giving you some tactical ideas if you're new to the game, getting you in that pilot seat, getting you in there with that neuro helmet, plugging you in, and giving you some starting points to think about as you navigate, as you learn tactics, and as you jump off. Part 0 in this video series talks about assumptions like playing on a hex map, talks about how the tactics change because we are not playing combined arms, meaning we're not utilizing infantry and tanks on there. So those assumptions of just sticking to the core set change the tactics ever so slightly. So Wolverine, moving into that. We have 2 variants on here. This is perhaps the best mech in the set. And I alluded to that in the previous video when we were looking at the Shadowhawk and the Griffin. Based on the battle value, based on the combination. So obviously you could say, well, Fritz, the best mech is the Battlemaster or the Awesome. Well, yeah, it has the tonnage, the armor, and the deadliness, but you're paying for that in the points on it. So if you're playing a fair game and you're saying this mech versus this mech, well, yes, this mech has an advantage because it's in a different weight class, it's in a higher tier, it's much more potent. But if we crunch the numbers and we look at the balance of speed, maneuverability, weapons, range, and armor, the Wolverine is really up there. So I'm really glad that they included this in the set. There really isn't a bad mech in here if you use this as a jumping off point for your Lance or for building and expanding into the Battletech universe. The only mech, and I'm not hating on it because it is a good machine, the only mech that I would swap out would be the Commando on here. It's limited to a very specific role. So this is something that if I could replace with another mech, I would. The Shadowhawk is also really kind of a single one role only. It's good included in the set, but I think this we could swap out also. All these other machines right here, all these other mechs, you're going to utilize as you build your collection out. You're going to utilize regardless of your play style. And there are certain mechs that excel in very, very specific situations, like the Griffin or like the Locust. And then there are certain mechs which I say are an auto-include because they excel in every situation, and that's the Wolverine. So let's kind of take a look here what we've got going on. Medium mech. That means now you've got some armor. You could take a couple of hits. You could be a little bit aggressive on there. It's a little bit forgiving if you make a mistake. If I was going to introduce someone to Battletech on here, I would start them off in a medium mech because it's going to teach you maneuverability. It's going to teach you the different range brackets. It's going to allow you to make a couple of mistakes on there. And it's tactically going to allow you to try and execute tactics. And if you make a mistake, you're going to take a lot of hits, but you'll be able to regroup or you'll be able to pull back and learn from your mistake. If you make mistakes with light mechs, you get scrapped on there. So the Wolverine's got the armor to do that. We're looking in the 6M, medium laser, SRM6, large laser, medium laser. So this is a medium workhorse. It does not have any long-range assets. It does not have PPCs. It does not have long-range missiles. It does not have some of the lighter autocannons. You do have the range on the large laser, but that's not that much of a problem because it has the speed you're going to be looking to close. What we looked at with the Griffin, on the way in, this has the missiles, the long-range missiles to shoot. And then when you get closer, you'll switch to other things on here. This doesn't really have any dedicated long range, but you're moving closer to engage with your opponent. That's not as bad because of the speed that it has. What we're going to look to do is, as soon as we're in range, we're going to start shooting with that large laser. Then we're going to look to stop with the large laser and really get close to our opponent because this has the armor where it can brawl a little bit. Then we're going to open up with the medium lasers and the short-range missile 6-pack. That's going to put some hurt really fast on a medium mech. That's going to put the hurt on a light mech, and you could argue a light mech should never get caught by a medium mech, but things happen with Battletech. This is a perfect bodyguard mech. This, we looked about it with the Commando because I was struggling for a way to find usage for the Commando. I would prefer not to use the Commando as a bodyguard mech, but we're going with what we have here. Let's take a look at this tactically with the Commando and how it works. And I am going to simplify it a little bit because we don't have terrain, we don't have the hex map. Generally, you want to operate as a lance, which is 4 mechs. It could be 2 heavies, it could be a heavy and 2 mediums. It often incorporates a light mech. So here's my lance. I'm so used to seeing, if I'm playing, the rear of it, and these are amazing models. Here's my lance. I want to stay close together. I don't want to go off on my own with just 1 mech because then it becomes isolated that my opponent might be able to pick off. But then it's out of my threat bubble. The threat bubble means if these mechs are together, they project a circle over the hex map, and the hex is that if something is here, all of the mechs can concentrate all their firepower and shooting in that area, whether it's large lasers, PPCs, missiles. If I take 1 mech and send this off somewhere else on the map, and now you appear over here, I'm condensing ranges. The weapons of the Battlemaster are outside of that threat bubble. You're only going to be able to hit with these 3, so you are diminishing your firepower. That said, it's Battletech, and the mission parameters change, and crazy things happen on there. You might have to divide your forces. We want to do our best never to go solo. The closest that you want to divide is working with 2 mechs on here. So let's say we've got that. There are my 2 mechs, and I'm moving in against my opponent. Once we get to 3 or 4 hexes, so here's Fritz's lance, here you are over on this side. Once we get to 3 or 4 hexes in Battletech, I call this danger close. I call this now we're locked in. And what that means, especially with the heavier machines on here, if we're like this, I'm shooting my short-range missiles, I'm shooting my lasers, you're shooting your lasers on here. We really can't disengage. I don't have the speed to disengage if I'm a heavy or an assault type mech. What could the Battlemaster really do? I could go here and start to run. At that point, you're going to get me. If I start to backpedal on here, you'll be able to move forward. So these 2 machines would be considered locked. I could do the same if it was this, but I wouldn't want to be engaging this. We're locked. So as soon as 2 machines are locked like this, the bodyguard mech, which is a mech that's behind it, bodyguard mech has the perfect balance of speed, firepower, and armor, because there's going to be other things happening. As soon as these are locked, this bodyguard mech is going to look to get to the rear with rear armor. This has jumping too. You have the ability to possibly jump over on there. You have the ability to run. So if I'm here, I can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 torso twist, or 7 torso twist, 8 move. You have the speed to get there. If you can get rear armor, you always want to get rear armor, but the variant here, if I can get rear armor, I've got the medium laser, I've got the short range missile, I've got the large laser, I've got the medium laser. If I can get close enough to physical attacks, it's a medium mech, 55 tons. That means I won't be hitting with the large laser or the medium laser in the arms, but I've got the medium laser in my head. I've got the short range missile pack on there. I've got the 2 fists to punch, 1 in 6 chance. I could possibly kick, although there are some risks with that, possibly falling down. So this mech is amazing for that as a bodyguard machine, especially given the ability that it has to jump. This thing likes to get up close and just mug you. I don't want to get up close toe-to-toe, one-to-one, but if I can slip another machine in there, another option if you're doing 2 medium mechs, have the Griffin as an anchor point, meaning the Griffin wants to stay here and shoot at long range with the missiles and the PPC. As another mech, if I'm this Battlemaster, I want to close. I'm going to be shooting you at the PPC, but I want to get up close so I can utilize those lasers, and I can utilize the short-range missile pack. So if you're staying there and you're in cover, so at least even though you don't have the movement modifiers, you've got cover, if I can get close enough then that's when the Wolverine makes the run for the rear. Then this mech can hit the jump jets, or it has at least enough speed, being a medium, to get out of there. This is an excellent, excellent machine. If you had to inherit a mech, you've come of age, you could do a lot worse with it on there. The variant of the 6R, it's different. I'm not a huge fan of it because essentially it extends out the range with the autocannon 5 a little bit more, but you're dropping the large laser on there. I'd rather have that large laser to shoot. I really would. The extra range on the AC5 when compared to the large laser itself, it's not enough difference on a hex map. It really isn't. If we were playing on a wargaming table, that could be a huge difference. If I was playing on multiple hex maps, maybe. I kind of wonder, why did they include it on there? I mean, slightly lower battle value, but I think the 6M stock is a superior mech to it with how it plays out.